guys, my name is Sergeant Angela McHouston and I'm part of the 313th Army Band. On my personal YouTube page the other day, I got a question on how do you tune a piccolo, which is an excellent question. So today I'm going to try to answer that as succinctly as possible as I can for you. So the deal is, on a piccolo, it's really kind of similar to how you tune on a flute. And the simplest thing I can tell you is to use your ears, which sounds silly, but especially since I'm wearing earplugs, I always use earplugs when I play piccolo. And if you want to grab your own set, these are from Etymologic Research. They're recommended by ear, nose, and throat doctors, and they protect your hearing. I have documented, after over 20 years of playing piccolo with earplugs, I have documented 0%, almost 0% hearing loss. So what I find is that they take the noise and the distortion out of the sound so I can really hear myself better. When it comes to playing and tuning a piccolo, these are imperative because the frequency is so high and it's so loud, it's very difficult to tell if you're in tune, and you really don't want to be playing long, high notes on piccolo unprotected. Plus, you want to be able to hear, am I high, am I low, am I sharp, am I flat? So this is how I'm going to teach you how to do it on flute. It's the same on piccolo for the moment, just to spare my hearing and yours. So what you need, obviously, you need a tuner, and I'm going to use this one. You can use whatever tuning app you have. And obviously you want to make sure that you are warmed up first. So don't do this cold, not just, cold body-wise, cold instrument-wise. If your instrument is literally cold, the intonation is going to change. Point in case, this is actually cold. So what we're going to do, you're going to play some notes, make sure you're nice and warm, good to go, face is ready. And remember, on piccolo as on flute, you do not pinch. Once you get everything set, this doesn't move. All the control we need comes from right here, okay? So with flute as with piccolo, vice versa, what we're going to do, we're going to take this tuner, and what you might start doing, try it on your flute first. I'm going to play some notes. So what we're going to do, I'm going to pick some notes, and then I'm going to go up and down the scale. I'm not going to just stare at the tuner, because when you're using your eyes, you're not using your ears as much. You ever notice that when you're blindfolded or you can't see, it's really dark, you hear better? Your senses are a little more enhanced, so that's what we need to do here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a note, I'm going to look at the tuner, and then I'm going to look back at myself. That's sharp. Okay. So I noticed it was about, that's almost 20 cents sharp. So what that means is the note is high. I need to hear it lower. So if it sounds flat to me, it's going to be wrong. I'm sorry, it's going to be right. So you want the note to sound low. Na. So actually what you want to do is you want to think of, you know, like a slide whistle, like percussionists use, where they go, right? I want you to think of that in your head. You're going to hear that pitch, da, and you want to hear it fall. Ah. Heard the crack of my voice. But you want to hear it, doo. You want to hear it lower. So that's in tune. You heard the pitch fall, right? Dee, and it didn't change much, but I went from that's sharp to that's in tune. So that's not an awful lot. But now we're going to play some octaves, there's no wrong way to do this. My favorite way, when it's been a while and I haven't worked on my intonation, don't try to do all the notes at once. But when I first learned, what I did is I went up the scale note by note. So I went half steps. So here's an F. That's in tune. I'm going to go up a half step to F sharp. Barely sharp, so I'm going to hear it low. Now it's in tune. Could you hear the difference? And a lot of times it's harder to tell. So on piccolo it might be easier, it might be harder to tell. That's fine. Just take that with a grain of salt. So let's see if I can make something really obvious. So like C sharp, D flat is a notoriously awful note, right? So here it is. That's so sharp it's almost a D. In context, I went from a sharp D to a sharper C sharp. So if I play my D in tune, it's so so sharp, even hearing it low. Da, da. Sometimes you can practice doing intervals. Da, da. But we're going to go, we want to hear it low. It should sound flat. It should sound wrong to you. Really close. Okay. So you can practice doing intervals. You can practice doing intervals. You can do octaves. You can go up and down chromatically. So let's get to the piccolo, okay? So on piccolo, what you're going to do, now something to note is my piccolo is tuned to A442, which means it's naturally going to be sharp. So I've got to pull out quite a bit for it to be even close to being in tune to 440. That's in tune, okay? So now I'm going to go lower, in tune. Now, to me, that sounds flat. Let's check it with the tuner. That is flat. In tune. In tune. So did you notice the two high up sharps? The first one was really flat, and then I played it again, and it was in tune. I have to know that that note should sound a little flat to me for it to be right, okay? So a lot of this takes some practice. You play the note, you look at the tuner, you hear it higher or lower in your head. And how do you know how to do this? Here's the beautiful thing. You don't have to know. So what I want you to do right now, I want you to match my pitch. I'm going to sing a note, and I want you to match that pitch with me. Da! Did you match it? Da! How did you do that? Okay. Ideally, I would say whistle. But some people can't whistle. So if you just go, there, match my pitch. How did you do that? You don't have to know physically how you did it, but how you did it was that your ears adjusted for you. So your ears did the work. It's exactly the same thing on an instrument. So if I hear that note, that's sharp, and I'm hearing it lower, or I'm hearing it either higher or lower, my brain hears it. And my body's going to match that pitch the way it needs to, and I don't have to know how, and you don't either. That's the beautiful thing. So, tune a piccolo. First things first, you also have to take off the head joint, and there's a, I don't happen to have one with me actually, but your cleaning rod should have on the end, it should have a, just like for your flute, there should be a line. Insert that, take your head joint off, and insert the end of that into your piccolo. That middle line, that line should be, if you can see here, that line should be right here in the middle of that hole. If it's not, if it's above, you want to loosen your head joint, the crown a little bit, and push it down that same amount so it's in the middle. And you might have to push pretty hard. If it's really easy to adjust this, you need your head joint cork replaced. It should be difficult to move. Now, if it's too low, if it's way down here, then you need to leave this alone, but you need to ever so gently shove that up there a little bit until it's in the middle. Now, if it's grossly out, take it to a repair shop or somebody who knows what they're doing, but it should be in the middle. If it's not in the middle, you're not going to be in tune, okay? So second thing, make sure you always put this in the same position. What I do is I line up the middle of my embouchure hole with the outside edge. I take it from the middle of the keys and I line it up slightly to the outside. So I'd show it to you, but you can't really see it. So you want to always have that be in the same position. That way you know you're getting the same setup every time. So then we're going to do the exact same thing we did on flute. We're going to do on piccolo. Boom! Nailed it. Sounds flat to me. Let's see. It's in tune. But that's because I know that my Fs tend to run sharp, and when I hear them flat, they're right. Okay, so let's take a couple of things that I'm working on. Right now we're working on this for our annual training, the Rifle Regiment March. Then you can see this is the first flute part, but I'm playing piccolo on a lot of this because the piccolo part's missing, but I know on some places where we have high notes. Some of these guys, bum 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 ba-dum, like there. Those are really not nice to take in tune. And here's something to take into consideration when you're playing with a band. Like today, I noticed that we were playing really sharp. Bands love to play sharp. We just tend to do that, right? That's fine. You just have to know and adjust. And if you find that you, like today, we've been home a lot. We haven't been playing together as a unit that much, so we're all just a little bit rusty. on playing with each other, and I wasn't able to, I found that I was flat. My high notes just sounded flatter and flatter and flatter, which is why I'm in here working on this today, because I thought, if I'm flat, I'm not in tune, and that's what it's relative. So it's really important that you train your ear to know what is right, but it's all relative. If the band is tuning to A442 and you're tuned to 440, it doesn't matter if you're right, you're wrong because you're not in tune. So I was wrong today because I wasn't in tune with the band, even though they were playing really sharp. And I got to those high notes, I thought, I can't play these any sharper. So that you get into a bit of a conundrum. It's like, how do I push this in enough to be able to play those high notes sharper and match the band? And you get to a point that sometimes you just have to cut your losses and like sit out on some parts. Not that I ever advocate doing that, but you have to know the group that you're playing with. So if you're with a group that hasn't done that in a while, that doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. But sometimes you just have to do best what sounds good. So you always want to match the pitch, the overall pitch of the ensemble that you are with. It's relative. The absolute pitch is relative to your unit. So say I'm tuning to the first flute, and the first flute is 40 cents sharp. I better also be 40 cents sharp. Therefore, we are in tune. Therefore, we are right. If the band is 40 cents sharp, see what I'm saying? Okay, but back to the question. We're going to do some high note stuff up here. So what you want to do is you want to make sure your jaw here is relaxed. So right here, lots of space between your jaw. You're not going to clench at all. If you clench in here, that's how your sound is going to be. Whatever sound you make in your mouth is what's going to come out of the instrument, right? So we've got, let me show you these parts here. To me, that all sounds really flat. Let's check the pitches. Okay, so first note is an A flat. It's good. Sounds wrong to me. Let me look. Okay, so that's 20 cents sharp. Let me put the three together. So there's no wrong way to do this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to play those three pitches. So this is what's interesting. The A flat and the C were both 20 cents sharp. My E flat was dead in tune. Okay, so before I go changing anything, what's the top A flat like? It's actually sharp. In tune. Flat. Slightly flat. So we're working with all over the board here. So what that means is I've got to go back through and I've got to adjust my hearing to make sure I hear these notes in tune. Da, da, da. Another thing, sing your pitches. If you can't match the pitch exactly, you don't hear it, which means you can't play it correctly. So, A flat, C. It's sharp, I'm going to go flatter. Now, the question is, do I roll in or do I roll out? You don't. Sometimes. Most of the time you don't. If you are reduced to rolling in or rolling out, that means you are really far off or the band has gone really sharp or really flat, okay? So it's really nice for you to take those intervals and actually tune the intervals. So say I'm going A flat to B flat. Those are in tune to each other. Those are both 20 cents sharp, but they're in tune to each other. So B natural is dead in tune. So now I've got to go back through. First step, I've got to tune each note, hear it as its own note by itself in tune. Da, I've got to hear it flatter. It's going down in my head. Da. That's in tune. Did you hear the pitch fall? Okay, the next one is C. Da, da, and I've got to hear it flatter. So, it's still sharp, but it's less. Did you hear it go? And I'm not. Now you can roll in if it's pretty gross, like grossly out of tune, not gross as in ugly. Sharp. Right there is in tune. So another thing you can do is you can play that note. You can roll in or roll out to hear that pitch. So try this with me. We're going to play a C. What does your tuner say? Mine says really sharp because I'm hearing it sharp. So I want you to play your C, roll in until that pitch matches. And when it hits green, look away and listen to that sound. And then I went A flat C, and did you hear the C? It sounds flat, right? Now it sounds sharp, and it is sharp. So I do have to roll in a little bit, and then you just keep doing that. You play your C, maybe sing it, and then roll in until you hear that note. But it's really important that you hear it. Hear it as flat. Hear it as wrong. Understand that when that feels wrong and it is flat, it is right. So then you have to put it in context and play that A flat to C correctly. I know there's a lot of steps to this. There's not one really cute, succinct way. It really kind of depends on what you're working on. So I'm going to give you a cheat sheet at the end, things that you can do. So yes, you do want to get your relative pitch set first. I should have said this all at the beginning. Relative pitch set first. I always tune to an F because an F is more stable. A is not great for woodwind instruments. It only goes this far down the tube. An F is much farther down the tube. It's much more stable. So you want to make sure that your F is solid. Okay. Once you are set here, do not move your head joint. You don't want to push in. You don't want to pull out. It is set. You do not move this for every single note. Okay. You don't have time. You also don't roll in and roll out for every note. You also don't have time. That's why what I'm telling you with your ears is so important. Okay. You can use this as a tool, and sometimes you really do. It's just so out of tune, you just can't tell. But nobody wants to see people go do 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 and all kinds of movement, right? That's where your ears come into play. So get this set. Then you're going to tune each note. That's your practice session for that day. You take maybe part of it, but you're going to take part of that. You're going to tune each note. Then you're going to tune intervals. Then you're going to tune octaves. You put it into context. And so a method that you can do, just recapping here, a method that you can do when you have a note that you know you are set here perfectly, but when you play that note like C, it's sharp. I'm going to hear it flat. I can't drop it just hearing. I can't really hear it. So if you can't hear it, roll in. That's a B. Until you hit that green. So when I hit, that C is in tune. I want you to sit. When it's in tune and it sounds wrong, sit in that wrongness. Hear that note, okay? Then you're going to apply that to the intervals. I hope that really helped, guys. There's not I'm not going to show you any alternative fingers. It's more important that you get the sound in your ear and that you understand that pitch and you train that's how you train your ear. You hear people talking about train your ear. That's how you do it. So I'm not going to show you any alternative fingerings. There isn't any kind of like tricks of the here. Now, if you have questions about my embouchure, I'm totally happy to tell you about that. But if you notice my piccolo embouchure and my flute embouchure, they're basically the same. These are not going to be in tune. But you see it's very low, and when I go from low to high, all I'm doing is I'm moving here. The top lip is moving and making the aperture smaller. Same thing on piccolo, no different. I'm going, this top lip is coming down like a garage door. You can see that some of my other videos. So it's not that, I get that question a lot too, is how do I play piccolo if I play flute? Treat your piccolo just like a flute. Embouchure wise, the only difference is the aperture is going to be smaller, but if you pinch and you do this, it's not going to sound really good, right? So all you need to do to get a good note, and then I'm going to drop off here, when you're playing your piccolo, is what you need to do, try to get the best flute sound you can on that piccolo, and that'll take care of everything. Go for a beautiful sound, and that will take care of your aperture. You get your embouchure set and leave it, make the stuff come from here, make all the adjustments come from here, and when it comes to intonation, use your ear. Listen to a pitch, match that pitch, look at your tuner, look away, listen to it, double check it with the tuner. So when you're using your tuner, you're only using it to check and then look away. If you keep staring at it, you're not using your ears, like I said. So I hope that's helpful. Please give this a like, give this a follow. And if you're on my personal page, it's under Angela McHouston. And then give us a follow on the 313th Army Band page. What other instruments would you like to see if you're in the Army? And if you're on my flute page, thanks for joining me. What other questions do you have about piccolo?